The government has said there will be new local inquiries into grooming and child sexual exploitation. It follows calls for a national inquiry, with places like Rotherham and Bradford seeing organised abuse carried out by gangs. Well, today, millions of pounds has been pledged by the Home Secretary to fund 5 local inquiries, with there being a so-called rapid audit looking at the current scale and nature of gang-based exploitation across the country. Well, Ollie Constable joins me now. Ollie, what's been said today? Well,
there's been calls for a couple of weeks now for a national inquiry looking into the grooming of usually young girls in our towns and cities across the country. The issue has been going on for a couple of years, but was given new impetus when Elon Musk waded in, calling for a national inquiry. The government initially said that they would implement recommendations from a 2022 report from Professor Alexis Jay, which looked at historical abuse. Those recommendations included things such as mandatory reporting for council officials. Today, governments changed their position and said there would now be new inquiries. This afternoon, Yvette Copper said the government would give £5 million for 5 new locally led inquiries. She said effective local investigations would deliver more locally relevant answers than a lengthy nationwide inquiry. There would also be a rapid audit looking at the scale of gang-based exploitation. This audit would look at further evidence, including ethnicity data and demographics of gangs involved, as well as victims. This was her earlier.
Nothing matters more than the safety of our children. Yet for too long, this horrific abuse was allowed to continue. Victims were ignored, perpetrators were left unpunished, and too many people looked the other way. And even when these shocking crimes were brought to light and national inquiries were commissioned to get to the truth, the resulting reports were too often left on the shelf as their recommendations gathered dust.
So 5 inquiries. Do we know where they're going to be yet?
We know Oldham's going to have one of those inquiries. As for the other 4, though, we don't, or how they're going to be selected either. We've already heard from the Conservatives, who said 5 inquiries simply isn't enough and repeated their call for a national inquiry. We've also heard from Robbie Moore, MP for Keighley and Ilkley. He's been calling for a public inquiry into grooming in his constituency for several years now. The government there said an independent review was published in 2021 and a new public inquiry would cost money and was unlikely to yield any new answers. Today he told me that he was disappointed.
This still relies on the local authority wanting that inquiry to take place. So in the likes of the Bradford district, where you still have the local leadership refusing to instigate an inquiry and the government not willing to step in and force that inquiry onto the local authority, we are still in this scenario where in areas like Bradford, we are not achieving what, in essence, I think is fair, reasonable and open and transparent.
Now, there have been previous inquiries, haven't they, into abuse?
Yeah, there has. 3 years ago, that report from Professor Alexis Jay was published, which had over 20 recommendations. The government said that they would be implemented rather than having another inquiry. It was a 7-year inquiry which spoke to over 7,000 people, including survivors of sexual abuse. None of those recommendations were implemented by the previous Conservative government, but Labour said they would now be delivered. I spoke with David Greenwood this afternoon. He's a solicitor who's been working with survivors of sexual abuse.
Many of them that I've spoken to are not happy that it's been used as a political football and wanted the government to concentrate on the measures that will help them and protect future generations, which it appears that Yvette Copper has done this afternoon.
Well, these inquiries can't compel people to give evidence under oath, so there are concerns that this won't lead to any further convictions. Downing Street said it would be supporting local councils. The statement this afternoon is politically a shift in position for Labour. The government insisting it's not a new national inquiry, but it clearly has decided there is enough for further action.
Ollie, thank you.